All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This is, what are we on here? Episode 6, I believe. We are headed back to the world of video games for this one. We're going to take a look at the series The Legend of Zelda from Nintendo and specifically kind of go through the franchise here. And it sounds like we already have some differing opinions on which one we think may be the standout games in the series. I guess, maybe want to preface this a little bit by saying there may be some entries in the series that we have lack of representation for experience on, or maybe only one or two people have played here. But I'm Cody. I'm with you here again this week, and I'll let everybody else introduce themselves.
I'm Dave. Thanks for having me back.
FDM. We've all played the CDI ones, right?
I have not.
Oh, to completion. No.
Blindfolded.
Uh-huh.
Blindfolded. All right, so I guess we kind of brought this topic up amongst our revolving co-host group, and the three of us decided to tackle this one. So I thought, as typically we've done here on these first few, maybe we could just say why this is a topic that intrigues us, and I'll let somebody else go first this week. What is it about the Zelda series that maybe attracted you to it through your lifetime?
It is one of the 4 games I got when I first got my Nintendo in, I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd grade. I think the gold cartridge always intrigued me. And when you were little, it looked cool and shiny. I don't forget what the box said, like experience the endless quest or something. I don't know. All those type of things intrigued me, of course.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't call myself a huge Zelda fan, but there are entries in the series that I've very much enjoyed. And I'd love to shoot the shit about it. So sounds good.
I'd forgotten about already the gold cartridge. That's a brilliant call on that. I think you're right, though. I never had Zelda, the first one, as a kid. My friend Chris had it. And so when I go to his house, it'd be like, let's play that game with the gold cartridge. It looks pretty cool. But we'll talk about the games individually here in a bit. But going to someone's house and it not being your game and like trying to like pick up the controller and figure out what the hell was going on was like.
I remember before we even had a Nintendo, my brother had a friend named Ryan stay over, sleep, and me and my brother shared a room, and they were just sitting there all night, just like they weren't playing the game. They were just like looking at the maps and talking about it because we didn't have a Nintendo, and they were just like,
"Oh wow."
I was thinking about where this thing is, or maybe we should try bombing here. And I just got really into it just by listening to them. But I always wanted, with my brother, I always wanted to kind of be, emulate him, I guess. But yeah, little brother, big brother thing. You know how that goes.
Nope.
No, you don't. You don't.
Of course you don't.
I get it, Matt. I get it.
Good.
Now, I get what you're saying about the mapping that they were into, though, because this was one of those early games that kind of had the I don't know what you call it, the scrolling map, I guess, and maybe there's a technical term for it. You might know better than I, but this idea that like you could actually sketch out each square of the map like on graph paper very easily, right? Because it was made to be shaped that way. Like Metroid, we might have mentioned a bit in the earlier episode on the NES, but like that was another one where I like kind of sketched out the map of the world, but like distance was a little bit harder to estimate in that one. So it was like, here's a hallway. How many screens long is this one? That's a little trickier to tell. Where versus Zelda, you're like, this is the edge of the screen.
Well, not only was it able to be mapped out that way, they gave you a map with it, with like half of it not filled in.
So
that's
like, right.
You got the map, and I remember we filled it in and intricately. I'm sure my brother did that, not me, because
it came with like the instruction booklet, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew of the first Zelda game, and I'd kind of dabbled in it at a friend's house, but I never owned it, and so never really got invested in it the way that I kind of wish I had.
Okay, so we kind of went back and forth on how to handle this one today, and I guess maybe we kind of came up with the solution we all liked, which is a little different than what we've done with some of the other ones here. But since there's like a good chronology of this game, we thought we might run through the entries in chronological order, and then maybe Each person can kind of share their thoughts if they've played that game and what kind of memories they might have from that, or standout innovations from that game, things they really enjoyed that made that game stand out, or maybe why they did not like that game. If that's the case too, and we kind of already started with this a little bit here, but I just have a website up that kind of has the series sketched out. So it looks like 1986 Japan, 1987 Legend of Zelda comes up first. We've already kind of been hitting it down a bit here, but was there anything in particular about this first game that was just like really unique to you at the time, or like very different than what else was out?
Well,
go ahead. Please.
Nope, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there weren't very many top-down adventure games. There were a few platform side-scrolling adventure games. I think Metroid might have come out first. I'm not sure. I should know that, but they all came out around the same time in the States, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. As I said, I never had it, so I never got super into it, but I recognize today how important it was and how intriguing it was to players at the time. And my understanding is like it was the first game to have like a save function that wasn't like password enabled. I think it was, did it have like a second quest, like a new game plus type situation? Like there
is a second quest, and
that's great for a game that early on to have.
And it's incredible. Very, very different. In fact, my brother played it through recently, again, for the first time in like 20 years, I think. And he didn't remember where Jack was. So
yeah, because in that one, like they actually move everything on the map, right?
And there's new mechanics, even like you can walk through walls that wasn't part of the first quest, but certain walls you have to push the direction and walk through them. I remember when we found that out when we were kids, we're like, oh my god,
wow,
that's incredible.
But also just a side note factoid, Metroid had a save function as well, but only in Japan.
Oh,
when it came over to the States, it actually looked just like Zelda's, except it was Metroid.
I wonder if that's a hardware limitation.
It might have been. I think it was the part of the Nintendo Disk System. So it was easier because, Zelda had that battery, which I remember they said, like, in 5 years, the battery will be dead. And last time I checked, like 15 years after I bought the game, the damn battery was still working. I don't know how long that darn thing lasts.
Yeah. No, you mentioned the pushing on walls in the second quest, but I remember too, like that first game, just the ability to interact with the environment was crazy. Like blew our mind as kids, because it was like any dungeon you were in, like you had to try to bomb all of the walls just in case. If you had like the candle in the overworld, you had to try to burn every bush just in case. It was like you didn't know where anything could be hidden at, and that was kind of cool too.
You could only use the one candle once per room, so you'd have to go in, try to burn a bush, then walk out, walk back in, try the next bush over. And
jeez,
how many hours wasted as a child trying to burn it? And then you get in, and it's, please pay the door repair charge, 50 rupees. Really?
Those bastards.
Yeah, I feel like every Zelda game, as soon as you enter a graveyard, you're like, oh shit, I got to push every tombstone here just to see which one has the secret. And like 90% of them have ghosts that come out and attack you. You're like, God damn.
You think like Nintendo on their end is like, should we put a graveyard in this one? God damn it, we're gonna have to make all the ghosts come out of it again though. Yeah, they're gonna want it though. So another thing that was big with this first game here, I'm just kind of glancing through notes, is like just the sheer variety of weapons and items that the game had compared to others at the time. Like instead of like, this is my gun that I have to run around with, like it was choose the weapon you think's the best. A lot of those early items, and maybe more so than the weapons, but you still had you have bone arrow, you had the sword, you had the boomerang,
the magic wand.
Oh yeah,
my favorite was the magic wand. Totally optional item too. You could get it so you get the book so it like shot fire, like when it hit something it turned into fire too. So
okay, then you had like the ladder, the candle, the blanking on this, the raft. Yeah, there was a raft in the first one.
Oh yeah, it's really impressive for a game in that generation for sure.
Yeah,
kind of agree. Yeah, so I have good memories of this one. I didn't beat it till, like I said, I didn't have it, so I didn't beat it till much later. I might have been in college at the time. Sounds about the right time period. Might even have been on like, is it in Animal Crossing? Is it one of the games in Animal Crossing?
I think it is, yeah.
It might have been one
the original Animal
I'm
Crossing.
not sure.
We could have a whole episode on how I don't get what that game is or what I should do or why I should play it.
We should definitely have an Animal Crossing episode. I'm in.
It's
hard.
like Sim Life. I already have a life. I don't want a virtual job. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but you.
All right, let's save this topic.
Oh, sorry.
I got a lot to say to you.
All right. So that's 1987. Looks like we're gonna wrap real quick here. 1988 July, we have Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link that comes out. So this is only, about a year after, in America at least, the first one comes out. Side scroller, experience points. This has got some RPG type stuff, and this was the first Zelda game that I owned. I think I mentioned that in the other one where Matt put it in his top 5. But again, as a kid, this was another one like, if you didn't know really where to go or what to do, you were like, run around and try to level up. I don't know. Matt, I know you love this one, Zerda.
Oh, no, it is probably... I named it as my favorite current NES game because I can go back and play it all the time. But even though it was only the second game, so the trends hadn't gotten started, I don't consider this to be what I consider a Zelda game. It's a Metroid game. It really is. It plays like a Metroid game instead of a Zelda game, but you got a sword instead of a gun. There's nothing wrong with that. That'll come up with a couple other entries on this list, no doubt, but that's,
Yeah, it sort of feels like when Mario 2 came out and it was really Doki Doki Panic that they had reskinned. Like, I don't think that's the history of this one, but it's interesting that they so radically changed the entire approach.
Yeah. I know Shigeru Miyamoto considers it kind of his black sheep, but I don't think that that's necessarily fair. I really like the game. I mean, like I said, I can play it more than Zelda 1 for some reason right now. I don't know why.
Okay.
So I mentioned, I think in the other podcast too, this is the first Zelda game that I beat as well. As a kid, I beat this one when I had it. And it was hard. It's a hard game in certain spots, but doable. As long as you get some good duck crouching sword attacks there.
Down thrust and up thrust make that game possible to beat. Without those two attacks, the game, I would have given up.
Let's see. And I had the gold cartridge version as well. I just want to point that out.
I have both as well. I don't know where they are right now. Actually, I think I might have given them to somebody. So maybe I don't have them anymore. It doesn't really matter.
All right. So we're going from Zelda 2. Now we have, it says about 3 to 4 year break here to Zelda Link to the Past. We're switching systems to the Super Nintendo 1991. Wow.
Well, that's what the Super Nintendo, I think, did best, was take exactly the same game and just make it a lot better. Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda game, bar none. And I still probably every couple of years just play it through to completion. I just think it's a great Zelda game. I mean, it's what I want out of a Zelda game.
I did not ever own a Super Nintendo. I kind of was in like to PC gaming when the time came, and I regret it now. Stuff like Super Metroid I've gone back and played since and just absolutely adored. And this one I've kind of always had in my back pocket as one that I'm sure I would really get into. I just have never booted it up and tried it, but I have friends who love it. And oh my God, Matt, I'm sorry for the look on your face right now. All right, I hereby pledge to play this game.
Okay, you can give me a game that I've never played and I'll play it.
Oh my God, that's a fantastic idea. Okay.
We'll do
Deja
this
vu,
exchange.
uninvited. Gauntlet was thrown down already.
Look, okay, hold. You can cut this out, but because of that last one, my brother gave me this book that Deja Vu has elements from. He sent it with his son to me.
That's so funny.
To read. I told him it's not happening until I get done with school, but like,
yeah, wow. Really. So someday I will play Link to the Past, and you just bumped up the timeline, Matt. So thank you for that.
Very good.
I recognize the masterpiece that it is, just from what I've heard from many people.
Yeah, this one's fantastic. I did have nobody's gonna be surprised by this. I had a Super Nintendo, but I rented this one often, and one of the things I think that made this and Super Metroid 2 to a lesser extent is just how they like handled the capabilities of the 16-bit with like fog mechanics and like trying to, make places look mysterious. And this one, compared to like the first Zelda game, was a fun game to play, but this one has more of a personality than that one does by far. Like there's weird creatures in the world, and there's odd unexplained things, and you just try to piece together some elements of puzzle and mystery as you go through this one, I feel like. And then the whole light world, dark world, right? Like that was, again, very innovative for its time.
And that's a concept that carried through into many of the offerings afterwards. The idea of like two parallel worlds that you go back and forth between is a really important part of the series.
A local friend of mine told me this experience, and I had the same thing. I'm curious. Obviously, Davis won't. Well, it wouldn't to you, but Cody, I'm curious. When you first played this game, and you hit Agarim or whatever his name is, and you first beat him, were you expecting it to open up in another giant part of the game? Where you're like, oh wow, that was a short game. I'm done now. Like,
it's really hard to think back and remember that far, because he was kind of like. Well, who's the boss in Zelda 2? Was it Ganon?
Well, there was the Thunderbird, and then there was Shadow Link.
Okay, so not Ganon.
No.
Okay, and then because in this one you're like, because Ganon's not really like established as a recurring villain here by the third game yet.
Well, when you died in Zelda 2, it showed a picture of Ganon. It said Ganon returns from the grave. Like the plot was they had to take Link's blood and like sprinkle it on Ganon's ashes to make him come back, he just appears on the screen and says "Return of Ganon," and you hear this.
I do remember that.
Like Bald Bull laughing.
Ganon is Bald Bull. Now this one was great though. I mean, the world was really fun to explore, and a lot of mystery to this. Story, I mean, it had, again, way more of a story than that first one, right? Because isn't this one where it starts with like your uncle or somebody you're with, and then there's like going down wells and you're popping up in castles, and there's like somebody storming the castle and the princess. And this also has the Master Sword for the first time in the series, so that's another hallmark moment.
This is something that a lot of people call the sword in Zelda 1 the Master Sword, and it was the magic sword. It is a common error.
The white one?
There's a white sword and then the magic sword.
Oh, is that the one that's displayed diagonally? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here we get the Master Sword, which I have my own issues with the Master Sword, but we'll get to those later on in this countdown here. All right, let's keep going here. So now let's see. I don't know. We're jumping into some territory here. So the last one they have in this first generation here is 1993. We jumped ahead 2 more years. Game Boy debut, Link's Awakening, which has been re-released.
It's Link to the Past on the Game Boy, essentially. I mean, it has some cool mechanics, like it has the leaf or the feather, lets you jump.
Okay.
And you can also switch whatever from button 1 and button 2. Like you could make your sword A or your sword B, and you could equip any 2 things, which was nice, but it was also kind of annoying.
Oh, yeah.
I have never actually beaten this game. I've gotten like to the 6th or 7th dungeon. I don't remember, but I keep always getting stuck, and I always forget what I have to do when I go back and play it 5 years later.
This is the first entry that I actually truly played, and it wasn't on the original Game Boy. It was only later on the Game Boy Color, so it wasn't my first Zelda, but the DX version on Game Boy Color, and then the re-release or the remaster on Switch. Yes. Last year, I played through all the way and really enjoyed it. I like the exploration. I like the kind of item quest where you got to give the bananas to the one guy.
God, I got stuck in that for years.
This whole chain of shit that you had to do for people, and you're like, You're like, what my reward for all this? Like, is dog food? What is going on here? But yeah, I really liked it. I'm not a big fan of like, I mean, sort of the whole time that like he's dreaming and he's going to wake up, and that's the point of it. But that whole plot line is like cliche and a cop out, and I don't really enjoy that aspect of it. But gameplay wise, I liked it a lot, and it's one of the reasons I know that I would like Link to the Past if I ever.
Yeah, if you like that one, you'll dig it. Totally.
I hope that they do a remake just like they did Link's Awakening, like same art style, same everything. Do Link to the Past in that art style, and I think that'd be fantastic. I hope they do.
Isn't that a Link Between Worlds?
No, the Switch one that came out in 2019, it's kind of got like almost like a claymation aspect to it. That was Link's Awakening.
Yeah, it's I think I had this one for the Game Boy back in the day. This is one I always complain about because I had the dungeon where you had the ball you had to throw like between the floors, and I threw the ball, and that son of a bitch never came back. I don't care. Like, I spent days looking at that dungeon. The ball disappeared. That was the end of my game. Like,
that ball is very frustrating. I don't think it ever like straight up broke for me, but it is often, I found it very difficult to. In fact, I think on the Game Boy Color one, I think that's where I stopped because I just could not get past that dungeon, and it was a pain in the ass to come back to on the Switch years later.
It was still bad. Yeah, I also had the Switch version, the remake. Matt, you'd like, I think, the art style too, probably. Dave mentioned that, but it looked
claymation one.
It's got a really cool aesthetic.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, it was, I don't know, something like claymation meets like Donkey Kong Country, but 3/4 overhead or something.
It's got a few frame rate problems, which I don't really understand why, but
I was happy to get through the story years and years later, even if it was on a different platform. But the world was too small. I could tell it was like a Game Boy game. That was my biggest issue. It was
interesting.
Like, and we're done, like 20 hours or whatever. But
such a small world, I never got through the damn thing. I don't think it was the same dungeon you guys were talking about, but I don't remember what it was. I think I couldn't find the next dungeon or something. I don't remember it.
Yeah, that can be a tough thing.
That
all these games, really.
That giant fetch quest took me like years. I'm like talking literally like 5 years.
I admire your tenacity to not
every now and then I'll just pick it up and be like, what do I got to find now? I got to find a banana. Okay, where's a banana? Yoshi doll. Okay, whatever.
We are headed to the 3D era next, it says here. So we're jumping to 1998. We have November 98, Japan and the United States get Ocarina of Time. Originally known as Zelda 64, but officially released as Ocarina of Time. I feel like we gotta let Dave kick off this one.
So this is the one that I by far have the most to say about. So bear with me here. So basically it was, I was 15. I had just gotten an N64 a few months before. I kind of missed out on like the launch titles like Mario 64. I think I had Diddy Kong Racing, and I was really into that. And like all these great reviews were coming out for this new Zelda game. So it was Black Friday of 1998. I went to Target in the morning, like as soon, waited in line, got this game. I did not get the gold version, which I was a little miffed about at the time. But I had read just these great reviews. It was like the first perfect score from Famitsu magazine in Japan, which was like, everyone was saying, oh, that's a really big deal. And I played it for days. It was just an incredible experience. It's got great puzzles. It's got just every track on the soundtrack just brings me back, is incredible. And it was just like Mario had transitioned into 3D in a really successful way. Even though I hadn't played a bunch of Zelda in the past, I could tell this was a very successful transition into the world of 3D and showing the power of 3D gaming. It had a huge open world to discover. Like, you see a mountain in the distance, and you're like, wow, what's up with that mountain? And then you just freaking ride your horse over to that mountain and you find out, which just blew my mind at the time. It had some really innovative stuff. Like, it was you could lock on enemies by using the Z button, which was a big advent for 3D gaming, to be able to lock on enemies. It had the time travel aspect, which was really cool. Like, you hear, 7 years ago, this boy with an ocarina got up to some mischief, and you're like, I'm the boy, I get to go back in the past and do it. And it's really fun. It's got the fishing game that used the rumble pack. That fishing game could have been like its own game. It was that good. Just riding the horse around and playing tunes on the ocarina that all have different. Back in the day, like Game FAQs was like a really popular site, and my
still use it today.
Yeah, absolutely. My sister and I, who's 2 years younger than me, we're very close. We created a guide to how to play popular tunes on the ocarina, and so we'd be like, "Oh, you want to play like Offspring? Like here's what the buttons to press." And we released a whole guide, and we were like really proud of it. And I checked the other day; it's been basically scrubbed from the internet. Some guy released like another version that kind of piggybacked off us, and his is what has survived, which is whatever.
Should have trademarked that.
Should have, right? But yeah, so that's enough for me. But basically, that game was just incredible for me. It really got me back into console gaming in a big way after spending years kind of as a PC gamer. So it was a very, very important game to me.
Yeah, it kind of echoes a lot of what you said already, Dave, about this one. But I did have, I think, Mario 64 and Cruis'n USA might have been my first two N64 games. And
first Nintendo system that didn't have a pack-in game. Cheapskates.
That's true. That's true.
That's fair. But I'll echo a lot of what you said. Like, I don't know, it's hard to think about now because games have been 3D for so long. But like, you nailed it with the like transition from Mario and Zelda to 2D to 3D was not something that should have gone as smoothly as it did for their first effort, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park. I agree with a lot of this stuff you said here too. The open world, just like exploration, I don't know, feels different when you're 3D and you can like look behind your character over his shoulder and like see, like you said, like here's this thing, but I'm actually moving towards it versus like a Zelda, Legend of Zelda, or even a Link to the Past. Like you don't get that perspective. You're not, like you're moving left across the screen, but you don't really know what you're heading towards because you can't see to the left across the screen. So
it's a great point.
This was a great one. Also had really good dungeons as well. Isn't this where we basically started the like, I don't know what you want to call them, the like Captain Planet dungeons, like the fire and the ice and the water and the
I think Link to the Past had that too, I would say.
They did have that?
Okay.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Is this the one that had the water temple that everybody hated?
Yep, sure
It
did.
is. The only temple I beat in 1 day's time. That's a story I'll tell in a little bit.
It's the only you beat it in 1 day's time?
Yes, I beat that one in one sitting. The only temple in the entire game. Every other temple took me like 3 weeks or something. Like I just.
So that was the easiest one for you?
I don't know why.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never found it. I think it was the hardest, but I didn't seem like a deal breaker for me personally. It seemed manageable.
Like if you couldn't get where you're going, just change the water level to another level and see what you can do.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Now,
yeah, go ahead, Matt. What do you got?
Oh, I was going to say, like, I'm going to state off the bat, it is an excellent game. So anything I say is only just the way.
Oh, here we go.
No. Here's the thing. This was the first game. You said, Dave, it brought you back to consoling. This game pushed me away from consoling, and I'll explain why. Why. Because it was when I started to realize that I was old. And I wasn't all that old then. I was like, 20? But here's the thing is, first off, it took me like 3 hours to get a sword. By the time I got the sword, I was just like, oh, thank God, finally a sword. And then you get to the Deku tree. Okay, finally I get into the bottom of it. By the way, this is after a week's time, like trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. You have this branch, it's on fire. And you're supposed to light the cobwebs. Okay, I had played dozens and dozens of 2D games with staircases behind cobwebs. And you know what they were? Background graphics.
Okay.
So I didn't realize that the world was meant to be interacted with. And that took me like literally 2 or 3 weeks, like trying to like figure that out. I remember because I was working at my dad's law office and there was a guy named Deku who would not answer his phone calls. So I'm sitting there, I'm thinking this game is even fucking mocking me. And I'm like, oh my God, you can burn the webs? Okay. And that's the way the logic with the game was with me until the end. I started it in I believe summer 98, 99, something like that was when I bought it. I finished it in 2001, living in an apartment with Marco. That's when I finally finished the darn thing, like 5 years later or something, 4 years later. Like, it took me that long to get through the stupid thing. And I really like it. It's a great game. I'd love to go back and play it sometime. Also, one other small complaint I would have has to be Navi. Is it Navi? Is that the guy's?
It is Navi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
it's the start of a bad trend. I agree.
I liked instruction books that you could hold, like the original Zelda's instruction book. It's almost a work of art. Like all those old ones, they have maps, they have drawings of all the characters, the creatures, the weapons. And then once you start to get to the 64, the instruction books get thinner and thinner and thinner, and the game just tells you how to play as you're playing it, which is fine for a little bit, but you can't turn it off.
Yeah. And I have things to say in the later entry about what you're talking about. I agree. Navi is not a great part of it. But your first point, like I was playing with my 8-year-old brother and he could figure out
he burned the webs right away.
Like,
but he didn't play like 30, 40 games on the regular NES that just had backgrounds.
But doesn't that, like, when you discover it, I can see if you were frustrated that long. Like I was going to say, like, didn't that make you go, wow, this is a whole new
did. Oh, it
thing.
Totally did. But it was preceded by, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
That's actually a door back there? So.
That's interesting.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, no, but it's still very, it certainly deserves the praise it gets. I was frustrated while playing it the first time.
No, it's a fantastic game. And just looking at some other things here. It says Ganon became human for the first time as Ganondorf in the series.
Oh, no. Ganondorf was in Link to the Past. He called him Ganondorf. There was a flashback.
As a human?
Really?
As a human, yes. Because he got sent to the Dark World, where he transformed into the Moblin dude because his heart was corrupted or something. I forget exactly.
Oh, okay. All right. And then guys already kind of mentioned this, but basically the new races, the Gorons, the Hylians, the Zora, Gerudo.
Actually, to be honest, I was annoyed when I played Link to the Past after that, and I'm like, what? They actually mentioned Ganondorf in this game? And they call him Ganondorf?
I did not remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty, let's see.
But the music. The music in the game is amazing.
It's top notch.
There's a wonderful strings album that came out called Hyrule Orchestra. That's all the music from the game with strings.
Okay,
it's lovely if you've never heard it. My favorite is the Gerudo Valley.
Gerudo Valley is incredible.
I have actually 3 or 4 different orchestrated versions of that song. I like them all.
You mentioned that now. I don't know if I ordered this game from Nintendo or who I got this from, but I think it came with a CD I have probably in the basement somewhere of like music from the
that's Skyward Sword, and it does have a Gerudo Valley theme.
No.
So Cody, I have that CD as well. It came with the Master Quest version, I want to say.
The one that came with the Wind Waker bonus?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It was a pre-order bonus for Wind Waker.
And did it have Zelda 1 and 2 and
no, it's just Ocarina of Time soundtrack.
Wasn't there like a Zelda collection or something for the
There was a Zelda
that had like
1
and 2 Ocarina and Majora's Mask together in like a thing?
It's like a 4-pack, something like that. I never had that game though, Dave, so I wouldn't have had it from that.
You never had Wind Waker?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe you're talking about something different.
I'll have to see if I can find. I wonder if I still have it in the basement. That might be worth a couple bucks. I'll have to take a peek.
Yeah, I was just checking the value of some of my stuff recently, and that CD is worth like $30 or something.
I can tell you that there was an audio disc that came with Skyward Sword. However, it was like the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
And there's a lot of good music on there. A lot of good music on there.
All right, so we're moving from 1998 to 2000. Same 3D game engine is used here to make Majora's Mask.
Well,
Everyone played this one?
Let me start on this one actually,
go ahead.
because my brain had finally accepted the 3D world. Things were able to be interacted with. Time had moved forward, and I actually really, really liked Wind Waker. I probably enjoyed playing it more than I liked playing.
We're not talking about Wind Waker.
Oh, yeah, I mean Majora's Mask.
Okay.
Yeah, I have brain farts.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure
I don't say what I mean.
On the right one. Okay.
I always say tomorrow and mean like 2 days from now. Oh, yeah, Majora's Mask. I don't know. I might have enjoyed playing it more than Ocarina, in all honesty. And again, I honestly don't think I've ever finished it. I was on the temple where you flip the things upside down and around. Again, the same summer I lived with Marco, and I never went back to finish it. But little thing. I'm having my students right now write in a journal every day, and one day someone wrote their top 5 fast food chickens, and the next day I'm like, I can't think of what I want them to write. So your topic is you're gonna write a top 5 list, and I don't care what it is. One kid did top 5 video games, and I didn't know what 5, 4, 3, and 2 were, but then he got to number 1, and he's like, Zelda, Majora's Mask, and I'm like, you were born in 2008.
Wow.
Like, how do you even know what that is? But I gave the kid props, man. Total props.
Yeah, this one for me should have been a hit because there are a few things in life I love more than a time loop story.
Yeah.
I'm a huge time loop fan, just in all media. But for some reason, it also killed it for me because the fact that the game was timed at all, like I could be in the middle of a dungeon and solving shit and be like almost to the end, and then the 3 days run out and I have to start over. I felt I just couldn't enjoy it for that reason. And I wish that I had tried harder to get over that, because I think the mechanics of the time loop were really cool and all the different masks were really cool.
Yep.
I should have been able to get into that, but I just couldn't for that reason.
This is probably the Zelda that broke me the most, as far as I used to walk through for a ton of it. I'll be honest, just because of the masks. There was like 40 masks or something in the game, and you'd just get one and be like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? I have no idea. And I would try for I don't do what you do, Matt. I don't have the patience to wait like 2 weeks trying to figure out where this thing's at. Like, I'll give you an hour if I can't find it.
That was 20-year-old Matt. 40-year-old Matt, no. Not even close. If I can't figure it out in 20 minutes, I'm pulling out a walkthrough at this point.
It was all, I mean, the masks were all super interesting. I don't know, it's interesting. Like, so we've gone from the light dark world here. We've gone from the like 2 time periods, and now we have the like rewind of time here. So like they're trying a little different gimmick with each of these.
Yeah.
With the style, but this is basically like Ocarina Part 2, right? Like it looks just like it pretty much.
Yeah, they were able to use the same engine and reuse a lot of the assets, which I think is a great idea. You know, it helps the kind of turnaround time between games.
So I enjoyed it, but it's not going to make the top of my list at all. The darkness of the game, I think, was kind of interesting. Do
you guys ever notice that like that Link just gets younger and younger with each of the original, like Zelda 1, he's like early teens maybe, then Link to the Past is before he gets to that point, and then you got Ocarina of Time and he's younger than that even still.
Well, there are plenty of chronological lists that you can look up that'll show you, the whole overarching timeline and how that works.
We should mention that, like, this, I love this series, but it has like the most convoluted.
Oh yeah.
The branch here, because here the hero won and here the hero was defeated and here it was the Tuesday, so we made 3 different branches. Each of these games has a branch down the branch, and it was it's a lot. I'm like, hey, it's a new Zelda game, let's pick it up. If it tied to the one right before it, great. If not, I'll move on. All right, so we're jumping ahead here again now. This is to Game Boy Color, Oracles of Ages and Oracles of Seasons. Has anyone played these?
A very little amount. I know I would like them. Again, It's basically Link to the Past. I just haven't. I think I beat the first dungeon in one of them, but that's it.
I have not played them. No.
DNA is rooted in Link's Awakening, it says. The sprites and gameplay are more or less the same. I did see here in this one site I have up that apparently it's supposed to be a trilogy.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
The 3 people in Ocarina of Time that you get spells from, there's Den.
The 3 fairies?
The 3 fairies, yeah. Okay. There's supposed to be one game for each of them, but I don't remember what the third one was supposed to be. Like in one, the seasons move forward, and another, I don't remember.
I mean,
it's
that's
really
pretty
cool. It's
ballsy of Nintendo to be like, buy 3 games, not just one.
Well, they didn't even develop them themselves. I believe they were. Wasn't it Capcom?
It was Capcom. Yeah, that's right. They partnered with Capcom for this.
Good call.
And even the two are cool. They have the same map. They have different mechanics, though. Again, I know I would like them. I just haven't sat down and played them.
Yeah.
Mystical Seed of Courage was the name of the third one. That was never released. Okay, so then we're jumping back here. Now we have kind of this 3-year span where we have something called Link to the Past and 4 Swords, including, well, basically that was a remake, putting the game out again, but with the new multiplayer Zelda game 4 Swords included within this.
I've never played.
Always wanted to, never played.
I think I played like half an hour of it.
Okay. Is this the weird one where like if you played, I don't know if it was by yourself, but you had like the 4 links like in the diamond shape and they're like...
I think later there was a port of it where you could do that.
Okay.
But didn't you need like a connection cable to play with other people? Or maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
4 Swords. Yeah, I think you're right. Included a multiplayer component. You had to use a game link cable, it says.
They always had crazy shit like that with Nintendo stuff, and I never had it. We talked about the Game Boy connector the other day somehow, or it came up in a conversation somewhere. We were talking about Tetris, yeah, and I've never had any of those. I never played multiplayer Game Boy with anybody, but you had stuff like that. You could connect it to 4 even. Yeah, you had a 4 thing. But...
All right, well, we'll kind of gloss over that, and we're going to head up to...
Sorry for any fans who were like completely just passing over your favorite game. Hopefully that's not the case, but...
I've always been a hardcore Nintendo console guy, but I've always like dabbled just a bit here and there other than the original Game Boy. So now we get to an interesting thing that happens here with this game's history. 2000, August 24th of 2000 at the Nintendo Space World 2000 Exposition, they show a software demonstration with a realistically styled real-time duel between Ganon and Link. And fans are speculating what this might look like when the game comes out. A year later, at 2001 Space World, they revealed that they have changed this idea to a cel-shaded Zelda title called Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. 2002 release date. Miyamoto said it would extend Zelda's reach to all ages.
I remember this art style, and especially Link's design, being highly controversial. People on the internet were very split, very upset that it was too cartoony. Nintendo is too kiddie. How dare they? After, sort of the more realistic, or as realistic as the N64 could be, approach of Ocarina, that they, would give it this more distinct and different visual style. I always thought it was great, but people were very upset about this one.
So I was living with a guy, I don't even remember his name. He just moved out of the apartment and randomly left his copy of Wind Waker there. Otherwise, I never would have played the darn thing. And my least favorite thing about any 3D Zelda, and there's one of these in every mother frickin' one, is the sneak around and don't get seen by anybody, or you have to start back at the beginning section.
Yeah, that's true.
And this sucker starts with it.
Yeah, it's pretty early, yeah.
And
it is a tough spot. I agree.
I was just like, after like an hour of just like getting seen, hey, and then you just get thrown out. Yeah. And I'm just like, done. I'm done.
Now, Cody, I remember you playing a ton of this one, right?
I did. I've played through this maybe 2 or 3 times, I think. I'm going to easily go so far as to say, as far as the series goes for mapping, this is my favorite game to map, just because, again, it goes back to the original Zelda with the square screens, but you can't tell where the square screens are because the ocean is fluid. But when you go on the map, like, you could see where your boat was positioned versus the grid lines. And so I had a ton of fun with this one. Like, where is the island that's in this square? What shape is it? What's on that island? Some of them had treasure. Some of them had little puzzles. Some of them had like a fortress you had to fight with your ship.
Was there an island in every square?
Every square has an island, yeah. Or some sort of land formation. There might be a few you couldn't actually get on yourself, but there would be a reason for them to be there. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I love this. I love this one. This is it is interesting. I hear what you were saying with the like cartoon kitty graphics though, Dave, because if you're looking at just the mainstream console games, this is going to go from Majora's Mask, which is pretty dark, to like, hope we got some bumbling pirates here that caught us, you know. And the ship in this one,
which again I didn't mind, but a lot of people did.
I didn't mind either. Honestly, I really liked the cel shaded look.
Yeah, I played this one quite a bit. This is one of the I think this is one of 4 Zelda games that I actually beat all the way through, and I think I have really good memories of the final battle and kind of the story that's revealed after that. That it's like it's an Ocarina prequel, if I remember correctly.
So he's even younger than an Ocarina then.
Well, it's a different Link.
Okay.
But it like the ocean, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong with this, but like the ocean kind of drains and reveals the Hyrule that we know and love from Ocarina. And I just thought, oh, that's cool. I had no idea that I was playing like a prequel, and just very creative of them.
I remember the art at first. I don't want to say it rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't. I just remember being like, that's interesting. And I don't know that I necessarily like merged with it completely, but once they added that look of a character into Smash Brothers, I was totally cool with it by then.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
What else on this one? I mean, this one's just great. I love the exploration. This one is this the first one that had Tingle? No, right? Or is it?
I think it is.
It's the first one that has Tingle.
Well, he might have been in Four Swords, I think, but
I think Tingle's is in Majora's Mask, isn't he? I'm gonna look it up.
I don't remember, to be honest.
Please do look it up, because I was about to.
That would not surprise me, though, to be honest.
I feel like it was the first Tingle, who is maybe top 5 most annoying video game characters ever.
Yeah.
Tingle first appeared in Majora's Mask.
Okay, good job. But I would put Tingle and Navi and another character we'll talk about soon, all in my top 5 most annoying video game characters of all time. Which is not great for the series as a whole, but what can you do?
I was trying to think what else. I don't know. I just love the exploration in this one so much. The graphics are great. The gameplay was good. It had a lot of fun, like mini games also should be mentioned, like the cannon game and
it had like a photo mode, didn't it?
Yeah, there was like a whole, you could go down the rabbit hole really far with the like camera thing they gave you, like trying to find pictures of people across the world. And like,
that's right.
I haven't even done all that. That stuff gets real deep. And then also I have to throw a prop out here because I love you mentioned the final fight, Dave, the part where like you go under water and it's like everything's in like suspended animation. And I just thought like that was awesome. Like you knew it was going to come undone at some point, and
yeah.
And actually, Cody, I don't know if you'll remember this encounter, but you actually talked to me either that night or the next day, and you were like all jazzed about it. You're like, I just did this thing in Zelda. There was this, oh my god, it was so amazing. There was like this, it was like this shrine of the old, oh man, I can't even explain it. It was great.
It is cool. It is really cool. I'll vouch for that.
Yeah, that part's awesome. Has anybody played the remake of this? Didn't they polish this up too since then?
I haven't, but you're right. They did a Wii U version of it, which is another Nintendo generation I skipped.
Okay. Then we have another Four Sword adventure game that comes out built on the previous Four Swords. This was a multiplayer level-based action like the Super Mario
GameCube one. That's right.
Each player is required to use the Game Boy Advance system. I think this is the one I was thinking of for the first one. So.
See, that's crazy. You need a GameCube. You each need a Game Boy Advance and the Game Link cable. Like there's only
Who the
so
hell
much.
played that? Like who would have all that shit?
Yeah, well,
If Cody didn't have all that shit, nobody had all that shit.
I have a friend who definitely had all that shit, but who I tried to get on the podcast tonight. He didn't want to do it, but I wish he had. And so I think this is the one that I might have played half an hour of with him because we lived together shortly after, maybe like a year after that. But it's crazy that Nintendo can be so innovative and yet so blind to like the real life restrictions of a system like that. Anyway,
no one's gonna have all that stuff. All right, then we're going to finish up this generation, as they're calling it on this one website, with the Minish Cap Game Boy Advance. I have not played this one.
Nope.
I have heard that this one's really good in terms of like the puzzles. That the puzzles in it are really fantastic with the whole shrinking mechanic, but no, I have not played this one either.
Sounds good. Once again, gives Link 2 worlds to play in. Yeah, so again, developed by Capcom on Nintendo supervision. Okay, then we're getting to the next generation here, which starts with 2006, The Twilight Princess for the Wii. Was originally going to be a GameCube title. They released it on the Wii and then later released it on the GameCube as well.
Was it later or is it? I thought it was a simultaneous release.
Oh, was that the simul?
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know. This article is kind of ambiguously worded here. Oh, it says November it came out for the Wii, December it came out for the GameCube.
Oh, okay.
So basically the same. Just enough to get people to buy the new system and then move on.
And I remember there being like the whole thing because the Wii version had motion controls, which was really exciting and innovative, and you're like, oh, this is the future, you know. But because Link is traditionally left-handed, they had to horizontally flip the entire game. They couldn't. It's as a software developer, I can't understand how this was that big of a limitation. But like literally, if you play the GameCube version and the Wii version, the map is flipped 180 degrees. Everything in the game is obviously like the UI is not backwards or anything, but everything else in the game in terms of the world and the characters and the animation, everything is flipped horizontally left to right.
What if you were left-handed playing it?
Oh, no, you were out of luck. There was no, you would think that they would be like, oh, let's put it in a left-handed mode because we've already done the work here. But no, it was legitimately flipped on the Wii version. And
Lefty's always getting hosed, man.
Yeah. But as someone who I was very excited for the Wii, I stood in line many hours to get mine, and I was on board with the Wii day one, and that was a launch title, and I got it, and I played through the whole thing and really enjoyed it a lot. So that one's on my top list as well.
Yeah, I enjoy this one. I have not gone back to play this one. This is one my kids have seen the box too, and they know like the wolf mechanic, and so they're like, "Woo, we gotta play that!" And they're right, we do have to get to it at some point. It's on our list of ones to get back to. But let's just looking at some screenshots here. This is actually a not too shabby looking game. Like Link looks pretty good graphically.
Yeah, and I think they had kind of taken the Wind Waker look and kind of merged it with the Ocarina of Time look to form, a bit of a hybrid. It was a gorgeous game and played really well.
So this has the Twilight Realm, so now we have like yet another twist of like the two worlds. Midna, cool character.
Midna's very cool
as well, unlike some of the other annoying ones we're talking about.
Yep, absolutely.
Heavy on horseback transportation and boss battles. Yeah, I want to get back to this one again. This one, I really like this one as well.
I don't think I've ever even seen this one played. Like, I have not played it.
Oh, no. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't have it for some reason.
Well, get yourself a Wii for $20 and then...
No, I have a Wii.
Oh, perfect.
I also have a Wii U, but if I I tried to go anyway. That's a story for another game further down. But if it
Okay.
tries to update my Wii when I'm playing it, I can't let it do it because that sucker's hacked. That's my home arcade.
Yeah, there was a Wii U version that did come out
Of Twilight Princess?
of Twilight Princess. Yeah,
You could
Okay.
even if it's just for the Wii, it's still the Wii U will play it. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
yeah.
Okay, then we got a double shot here of DS games. 2007 is the Phantom Hourglass, and 2009 is Spirit Tracks. Haven't played either one. Honestly, thought they both looked pretty good, though.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Spirit Tracks. I remember, again, like Minish Cap, like there were some good puzzle aspects to it, but I didn't get very far in it. And Phantom Hourglass, oh, that's the one that continued the cel-shaded look, right? It kind
it
of
looks like it.
brought in Link's character design and everything that they had established in Wind Waker, which is fun. I'm glad that they, returned to that at some point and didn't just write it off as something they were done with.
You said you've played Phantom Hourglass?
Phantom Hourglass, no. Spirit Tracks,
Oh, okay.
just a little bit.
I was just intrigued. Someone on a website here, Hudson, says Phantom Hourglass also had something new to the series. It was a big dungeon that the player would return to over and over, where it would grow larger and more complex each time.
Kind of interesting.
So I don't know what that looks like.
That's
but...
I feel that when you say that, I have to bring up the fact that way back in Zelda 1, all the dungeons actually link together to form the same big square that the overworld is. I don't know if you've ever noticed that they actually like piece together, because it's actually 16 by or three, I think 16 by 16 grids, maybe 4 even. But yes,
I did not know that.
On our NES episode, I was talking about how I used to play Willow, and I would map that out. And I did notice as a kid that, like, oh, if you take all these different maps that are not next to each other, you can kind of like fit them into each other.
That's
and
because
you can tell there's like a memory, programming thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's fun.
Interesting. Okay, then we're moving up to next big installment here would be 20. Oh, what's the release date here? 20. Wow, it's a lot of delay on this one. 2011, finally, it's the end of the paragraph here. North America gets Skyward Sword, the 16th installment already we're up to.
So this is one I wanted to talk about, as I don't even remember the name of the fairy in this one.
The blue one.
It was terrible.
Did you find him worse than Navi?
Worse than Navi because it wasn't just, hey, listen, and then you had the option to push the button to listen to what Navi had to say. But this one I remember, like, you'd walk into a new room in a dungeon. You're like, okay, what am I supposed to do in here? And this game didn't even give you a few seconds to figure it out. It was like, hey, look up. And you look up and you're like, oh, well, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And that happened over and over again when my friend and I played it. And it was just really, really aggravating. It's like, just give me a chance. Or is there a setting somewhere I can make this harder? Like, why did they do that? So that was...
That sounds like a room escape we went to one time.
Oh, yes. Yes, it sure does.
I'm sorry, okay?
It's not your fault.
Now, Hudson, I'm going to be on, I guess Dave didn't speak. So overall, Dave, your impression of this is the game itself besides the fairy?
I liked other aspects of it, but one of my favorite parts of a Zelda game is the puzzle, the dungeons and the puzzles, and it was just completely ruined by that mechanic, in my opinion.
This was a fine game, perfectly serviceable to me. I mean, I was happy that we got 2 Zelda entries, but I always complain about this one as like the world just seems small to me. I don't know, it just had those 3. I had like the lava world, and I can't remember what the 3 were, but like you kept going back to those same 3 worlds, which I guess was like it's gimmick, but it didn't work for me because I was like, I've already been here. Like, give me someplace new to look at. But Hudson, you liked this one, right?
Well, yeah, I probably, with the possible exception of Majora's Mask, was probably my favorite of the 3D Zeldas. Maybe it was just a stupid idea that I could swing my sword for once. I had a lot of fun with that. There was like the desert that had like the time thing. There was like the stone that would bring things further, and you had to follow it, like the key, and it would go away. I don't know. I enjoyed it. My biggest issue with it was that blue thing was really annoying. And not just because it would tell you what to do, but also because, like, if there was a mechanic in the game, I don't care if it's the 10th time you've done it, it would tell you how to do it again. Like dowsing. Like, the 15th time you got to douse for something.
That's right.
Like, here's how to douse.
Oh, and every time you, like, turned off the game and started it again, you'd pick up like your first red rupee and be like, this is 20 rupees. You're like, I know.
I don't remember that, but it probably pissed me off.
It just completely resets all those like first time messages. Oh my God.
Well, I recently wanted to play back through this again, and I got to the first dungeon and I never got much farther because I got this unfortunate spider fear now that I just can't deal with.
Interesting.
So like there's the spiders in there and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can handle this right now. But I tried to put it in my Wii and it wanted to update my Wii, which would delete all my emulation on there, and that's just not an option for me. So I ended up playing it on my Wii U, but I don't know. I enjoyed it. I understand the smallness of the ground world, but the sky, I probably had a similar response to the sky that you had to the ocean in Twilight Princess. I liked flying around and going to the different little islands and finding things. And there's a guy from work that we bought it at the same time. We were kind of racing through the game, and it was fun. And he beat it before me. And then
well, if it takes you 3 weeks to walk up the stairs, I can imagine why.
And then I never actually finished. We were both at. Oh, you talking about the end, like where you're going up and you're fighting the horde?
No, I was just talking about your 3D mapping skills for Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah, okay. No. We were both at the last boss. He ended up beating it first, and then I just lost interest again, and I never quite. I got to the last boss, but I died, and then I decided not to beat him again. Probably why I was playing through it for a second time. I will say that I thought the bosses were a little lame. Like when you have like one boss and he's like repeated like 2 or 3 times, I get annoyed by that.
Yeah.
And it's got that Garaheim guy like at least 3 times, and I'm just like, come on, give me a cool boss.
All right, then we get up to newer games here. We have Link Between Worlds. Came out in 2013. This is for the Game Boy 3DS. Can't say I played that one.
It's supposed to. I thought it was a remake, A Link to the Past, but I was looking it up earlier, and I guess it's not a remake. It's just
like a spiritual sequel.
Yeah, well, it takes place in the exact same map, but it's a different game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Forces from the parallel universe of Low Rule invade High Rule.
Oh, boo!
And turn its sages into paintings. Oh, you already.
That's a groaner, knee slapper.
Low Rule.
Well, just move on.
My friend I was playing Skyward Sword with, I guess, really liked Link Between Worlds, though. So I'd probably like it. I just haven't played it.
All right, then we have finishing up here Triforce Heroes. I don't have a release date on this one. 3DS as well. Can't say I played this one either.
I know nothing about this one.
Is that the one I played at your house in? I want to say Houghton. It's not Houghton. What's south of Houghton? Down.
Menominee?
UP. Menominee, yeah. Or
I don't think so.
No, it wasn't like a Zelda game, but you were just like fighting a bunch of crap coming at you.
No. Hyrule Warriors.
Different one.
What did you call this one then? Hyrule?
This one's called Triforce Heroes.
Triforce Heroes, Hyrule. Okay.
Has the same link as A Link Between Worlds. He's fled Hyrule and disguised himself, stumbles into the land of Hytopia, whose princess is cursed to wear ugly clothing by a villainous witch. Oh my gosh. This is very dramatic. Oh,
a terrible curse.
They have to craft outfits with Madame Couture. Oh,
it's going to be stuck in my head now. Man, why'd you do that to me?
Menominee.
I never thought about that. I'm never not going to be able to hear that again.
Welcome to my world. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry to have cursed you.
It's okay.
All right, then we get to 2017. So this is 5 years ago, officially 2 weeks ago. Breath of the Wild was the last mainstream
That
entry.
was a very similar way phrased to perhaps a story we read, read in grad school.
I said that and I was like, that was not the way I should have been worded, but just celebrating its 5-year anniversary. How about that? Is that better?
We'll let you go first because I know you have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I really, really like this one. I know, like, it seemed like all the other ones recently on this list that we've mentioned had kind of like the open world thing going on, but I feel like this one had the first like real modern day open world, where I was thinking about this earlier today too, like why this one hits me so hard, and compared to some of you I know who have probably a lower opinion about different aspects of it at least, but and I was wondering if it was partially because Nintendo doesn't get those like AAA games that the other systems get. So like to me this is like Nintendo's first huge foray into like this open world, whereas like PlayStation and Xbox have already had like GTA and Red Dead Revolver and like all these other games where they already have this huge open world they've been exploring, and we didn't really get that in Nintendo, mostly due to their, I guess, preponderance to make everything themselves and limit what's possibly on their system from other companies. But I love this one start to finish. Like I love the graphics, especially. I think they're beautiful. I loved the story with the divine beasts and the guardians or the heroes, whatever they're called, the 4 characters that are from each of the races, essentially, that kind of team up. I liked really like the aspect just of go do what you want in the game. Like you could tackle any of the dungeon, quote unquote. I know Matt's going to hate me for saying that word, but like the temples, whatever you want to say.
Not at all. I promise.
Anywhere you want, you could figure that out. And, you know, I've already talked about this one before, but I just like the freedom in the game where stupid things like you're just trying to get from point A to point B, and like you just come up on an encampment of enemies and you're like, how do I want to take these guys out? It's like, do I want to throw a bomb in there? Do I want to use like a magnet block? Do I want to use my bow and arrow from far away or run in with a sword? Or there was just a lot of ways you could handle things. I thought the world was really diverse and I thought it had a lot of stuff to do in it. I know other people have said it kind of feels empty to them in various points, but I just loved like that there was the random island you get swept off to that was like you lost all your weapons, and like here's this challenge to figure out how to beat this huge dude to get off this island and get all your crap back.
That is a fun one.
Or like, you know, here's this giant like movie like maze that's up with these huge walls, and you're just like trying to navigate this maze to try to figure out what the heck's going on in here. Or all the hidden stuff, of course. What are they called? Temples? Are they called temples in this game? Shrines. They're called shrines.
Shrines, right? Yeah.
So there's like 100 or something, right? Like ridiculous. I don't even. It's been a while since I played this one too, but I like the shrines. I know Hudson wishes they probably did a little bit more than they do, but at least they had like a nice little puzzly aspect to them. Some were combat, but
I'm not gonna.
Most of them were pretty good though. I don't know. I like the upgrade system. I'll let Dave talk about the food in the game, bring that up. The weapons, I know, is going to be an issue for some people. Listen, I'm pro breakable weapon, and I know that's not the way a lot of people are going to see this one, but
an insane viewpoint.
I love it because it forces you to, again, think about what strategy you want to use on something. So with like limited inventory spaces, is it worth me keeping an ice rod and a fire rod for a long time, or should I use one up and let it go away, or should I keep my level 40 sword for a potential guy that I might find that's huge, or should I be using it to kill this guy who's almost as strong as me? And so I mentioned the Master Sword earlier in the chronology, and this is kind of my thing where you like, I don't know, it's weird. Like I always have been probably your mindset of like, I got what I needed to do to get the big weapon, and now I can use it on the bad guys. And then I'm like, I don't know, maybe that just like makes the game too easy. Maybe you're too powerful if you just have like the god weapon, and then at that point, like anybody you find, you can just kill with the god weapon. I don't know. At least there is like a cooldown in some of these later games with it as well. I'll probably think of more, but somebody else hop in here.
Dave, do you want to go first, or do you want me?
No, please go ahead.
Okay. So I bought this game when it first came out. Day it came out. Everybody was in the store to buy the Switch. And I said, I just want the Wii U version of this game because I don't have a Switch. I'm not going to buy a Switch right now. And at Walmart, or Meijer, it was Meijer, the dude was like, really? And he had to like go back into dig into all these boxes and find it for me. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm like, okay, thanks. I appreciate it. Anyway, first off, I didn't get to play it that night because it made my Wii U like update for 3 hours before I could play the darn thing. I was really into that game for a really long time. I do not think it's a bad game. I do not have an issue with breakable weapons. My issue with it is it doesn't feel like a Zelda game. It's not like, it's like if I was playing, it's like I bought a new Final Fantasy game and they served me up an amazing Metroidvania. It might be an amazing Metroidvania game, but that's not why I'm playing Final Fantasy. So there are Zelda-ish elements. It's actually the same engine that runs Skyward Sword, which is interesting to me. Like a lot of, because it has the same dash mechanic and all that. I loved the exploration. I loved going around. I did sort of feel the world was empty for a while, but that didn't bother. It didn't really hit me as an empty world until I discovered all the little spire towers. Once I got all of those, and it felt a little empty to me. I don't know, like it had this weird feel that it's just not what I wanted from a Zelda game. Maybe it was like, as you said, like a Grand Theft Auto game in Zelda Land, which is probably closer to what I felt like. So my problem is not that I disliked the game. It wasn't a Zelda game after, like it was like 2/3 a Zelda game. And like, I don't know. Dave.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of points, and including a lot of your points, Cody. Matt, I agree that it doesn't feel quite like a Zelda game, although I don't claim to be a Zelda expert by any means. And
to be fair, I said Ocarina of Time wasn't a Zelda game back in 1998, so don't even listen to me. Okay. Don't even listen to me.
I could see that being enough of a departure that you would declare that. Absolutely. And Cody, I do think it did a lot for, an open world game like this. The idea that you can climb anywhere as long as you have the stamina for it. It was a really cool concept in a game. That's incredible. And I like that there are other games that, seem to be taken from that. I do think there's a little truth to what you're saying about like, oh, you just hadn't experienced, you're not a PlayStation gamer, you don't, or Xbox gamer. And so like this was new to Nintendo and therefore had some novelty to you. But I don't think that's totally the answer, because there are a lot of people who are, in both worlds, as it were, and think that it's a seminal game and it's a fantastic game. And I see that. For me, it did feel empty, even though there were nooks and crannies to explore. It felt empty, like it needed more like villages, I feel like, or maybe I just didn't play enough to encounter those. The breakable weapons are an issue for me. They're a huge issue. Like I get thinking, oh, what is it worth using this weapon now, saving it for later? But I think you can have a weapon variety and have different weapons be better in different situations or for different strategies, and kind of make your decisions based on those dynamics, instead of like, oh, I just don't want to, I know that this sword has 2 more hits in it, and then I'm screwed. I wouldn't have minded the breakable weapons as much if I could just stash as many of them as I wanted to, but it was constantly like, oh, you have 8 things. So I felt every few minutes I was like, okay, I gotta make a pain in the ass decision. And then you did touch on the cooking, which I was like, okay, so I'm weak. I need to heal. I need to get some food in this game. There's a cooking mechanic. Great. Okay, how do I do this? Oh, I gotta go into the menu. I got to hand pick out the 3 things that I'm going to put into this And then I got to watch a little animation. Boop, 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 boop. I think there was like a skip maybe for the animation. But I was like, can I just make like 5 of these at a time? Can I pick a quantity? No, I got to go into the menu every time. Little annoyances like that clearly set me off and just completely turned me off to a game.
That's why I never cooked anything in that game.
Like
never.
Right?
I was just like, the hell with this. I ain't doing that.
I was I'll go around, I'll shoot apples off of trees, and I'll, that's cool to me if I can use them but it was just such a pain in the ass to do that. I don't know. It did some cool things, but it just wasn't for me. And compared to a lot of open world games that like I've played on PlayStation, like Horizon Zero Dawn, it just really does, it just pales in comparison for me personally. But I don't want to, I know you love it, and I think it's great. And like it wasn't for me for many reasons, but I totally get why you are into it and love it so much. And I think
it's totally fine. We're here to argue, not to agree, right?
If I have a Switch when it comes out, I will buy the sequel and I will enjoy playing it, because I did really like the game when I played it. I haven't. It's one of those games I haven't had a desire to go back to. But there is something I have to bring up, just because it came up in our Facebook conversation so many times. Like you're playing through a Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and you're like, I hate crafting, goddamn crafting, frick crafting, and I'm like, but you love cooking in Breath of the Wild.
I love Bloodstained. Bloodstained is fantastic.
All right, for the record, no, I'm not going to defend the cooking system is terrible in Breath of the Wild. That's probably my least favorite part. I hate it. But but like I've said to you guys multiple times, I hate crafting in video games in general. Like, I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't want to collect shit and then put the shit together to make new shit. Just give me that shit.
So you were defending Breath of the Wild in that conversation just because you felt like you had to. That makes me very happy, actually.
Well, no, because in that, the Breath of the Wild crafting system is like, they pared it down to like me, the biggest idiot ever to like play these games. And they're like, here's this really simple crafting thing. Like, you can put these together and make an upgraded arrow. I'm like, I can do that. That's fine. But I don't want to, I don't know. I don't need to like Bloodstained is terrible for that, because there's like, here's 7,000 items. You might be able to make something. Good luck. I don't know. And then you got the old lady who's like, I want something with noodles and yummy egg smell. And you're like, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is.
I did totally use a guide for that part, because I agree that was way too ambiguous.
Again, that hit me since I've started playing games in my 40s. If I can't figure it out in 20 minutes, the hell with it. I'm looking it up. I do not care. Like, I have no qualms about this.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right, so then I guess I want to at least mention these other ones here. We didn't include these. This is in the non-canon, I guess, if you will, spin-off games here briefly. We have Link's Crossbow Training. Which
okay, I remember playing that at least once.
I had fun with for like a week, and then I was like, I'm done with this.
I never played.
Hyrule Warriors, this is one you were talking about earlier, Matt. This was made by the Dynasty Warriors people. Basically, you have the main heroes, and you can just slaughter like 1,000 enemies on a battlefield.
We had fun for a minute, and then we died, and then we didn't. We're just like, I think we're done with this.
Yeah, it's fun. That one actually is really fun, because that one had like this whole sub game where like you could complete challenges to get dungeon rooms, like Legend of Zelda 8-bit style. You could like piece together your own dungeons based on the pieces you had. So that was kind of a neat little thing. It had a lot of good challenges. I mean, it probably sank 200 hours into that game, I bet, easy. Doesn't mean it was great, but it was a lot of fun. Cadence of Hyrule, rhythm-based gameplay of Crypta the Necro Dancer with the characters in the Legend of Zelda. Haven't played. I thought it'd be interesting.
I played a little bit of Crypta the Necro Dancer, but it's too stressful.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like turn-based. I like being able to take my time and think stuff, and that's just like, do it on the beat or else you're screwed. Oh, you're dead.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So this is in the Breath of the Wild world with those characters, but is another Dynasty Warriors style of game. I was saying my kids have this. I have not played this one, but it looks about the same. Apparently there's a Tingle trilogy, which I was talking to Dave a little bit about before we started. We don't need to go into these, but their titles are Freshly Picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, Tingle's Balloon Fight DS, and Ripened
Wait.
Tingle's
They're
Balloon
dragging
Trip
Balloon
of
Fight
Love.
into Tingle?
Says
Balloon
it
Fight
was
is a classic, and Tingle
Club
is an abomination.
Nintendo members reward in 2007. It's similar to Balloon Fight. Tingle is the main character. It has the music from the first Tingle game. 99 levels. Yeah, it's basically Balloon Trap, just with Tingle. Yeah, it's exactly like
Who
Balloon
looks at Tingle and is like, I want to play a whole game with this guy?
Trap, right? And then the CDI games, which I haven't played. So Hudson.
Oh no, I've never played them. I've just watched videos on them.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, the one that's like Zelda's Adventure isn't actually that bad. It's basically like a Zelda game. It just loads real slow. Where you play as Zelda trying to save Link, I think. But then there's the other two that are like sort of side-scrolling things. That's the one that infamously has Link saying, "I'm so hungry, I could eat an Octorok."
You know, as shitty as that sounds, I really love the idea of playing as Zelda or playing as Ganondorf. Like, I really wish Nintendo would, switch things up a little bit by trying that route.
If you don't mind delving into the world of ROM hacks, go to romhacking.net. Sometimes they just mess with the graphics, but a lot of times, specifically for Zelda 1, there's tons and just tons and tons and tons. They do the world, they change things up.
Okay,
Remember,
cool.
I played this one, like you go into a room and it's like Zelda's there and she's possessed and she's like, you either have to remove a heart container or pay like 200 rupees or something. I like stuff like that. It's crazy, but I remember that was one of the first times I played Zelda again, and I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Like, for all the ways that they have innovated the series with each new title, they haven't mixed that part of it up, and I wish that they would. I think that'd be a cool approach to take.
Whenever they get to this long, just gestating sequel here, that is the bonus or the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I know that was one of the rumors for the longest time, was maybe you play as Zelda in this one.
Okay.
Or maybe it could even be like 2-player. I don't know how that would work necessarily, but yeah, you're right. They have plenty of room to switch it up. I was thinking earlier, I wish they would just the company would take more risks with new games, but that's a whole nother podcast topic.
Sure.
Okay, so I guess kind of wrapping this up here towards the end. We'll have people kind of mention just their top list briefly, but I did want to put out here the Metacritic scores with the top games of all time, featuring a lot of Zeldas here. So they have Ocarina of Time at number 1 with a 99 score. Number 14 is Breath of the Wild for the Switch with a 97 score. We have Breath of the Wild for the Wii U at 26 with a 96 score. And then there were a few more, I believe, down here. Twilight Princess is 38th all-time with a 96 as well. Wind Waker is 43rd with a 96 as well.
You have any non-3D games in that their list there, Codes?
Well, we have, and number 52 is the Zelda Collector's Edition, which we referenced, that came with Zelda, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. That's at number 52. And then you have number 56 is Link to the Past with a 95 overall, and Majora's Mask 57 at 95. So
I would say the original Metal Gear plays more like the original Legend of Zelda than any of the 3D games do. I will stand by this.
Yeah, that makes
testify it to court.
That makes total sense.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I mean, this is a whole.
I thought you meant Metal Gear Solid at first.
Oh no,
really
trying
to connect the
top down.
Yeah,
but I got you.
I don't want to even go into this in depth, Matt, but I'm curious. Does this same feeling apply to you with like when Metroid Prime came out?
Oh yeah, Metroid Prime Metroid Prime might have taken me as long to beat. No, it didn't take me. It took me two or 3 years, I think, to beat that game. But I have grown to really like Metroid Prime. It took a long time, but it's grown on me. I don't know if I like it as good or better than Metroid, Super Metroid. But I really like it. I have not beat the sequel, and I have not beat the third one.
I was just curious because I feel like that, series departed in a way further than Zelda departed when it went 3D. Like you went from side scroller to first person shooter.
Yeah, when I got into it, I really liked it.
Okay, I was just curious.
I don't think
We
I
could
could have
do a
played
whole
it
nother-
not on the Wii where I have like the pointy to move thing. If I just had the controller, I think I would have gotten my ass handed to me, and I would have never progressed. Which is why when you lent it to me, I didn't progress because I suck at those games.
Okay, fair. Okay, well, should we wrap up with just a brief mention of maybe what our tops are here? And I don't, unless if you want to add some details, feel free. But we kind of covered each one chronologically this time, so it's a little bit different here. I don't know if you have a top 1, top 3, top 5, or whatever you want to go with here. Does anybody want to go first?
I just want to say I don't know if we should really listen to Matt's opinions, because for the listener who can't see Matt on this, several times during this podcast, he's picked up a pair of very sharp-looking scissors.
No, I'm twitchy.
Run them caressingly along the side of his face in a very menacing way.
No, I play with things.
I'm just giving you shit.
No, I understand. I was wondering if that was bothering. They're not really that sharp.
It wasn't bothering me. I was like, what is the message here? This is interesting.
I'm sorry. I'll try to
skip this house when you trick or treat, kids.
I'll go real quick. So for me, it's probably no surprise that Ocarina is my number one, and then everything else after that is just like an honorable mention. Like that, there are really good Zelda games out there. For me, Ocarina is tops, and everything else just trails behind it.
I guess I'll go next for I'll count down instead of up. I'll say 3, and this is going to be weird. It's probably Skyward Sword, just because of the fact that I got really into it. It was the first time in a long time I'd gotten into a new game, and I was playing it alongside my friend at work, and we were talking about it at work, and it was fun. I really got into it, and then it just kind of got underwhelmed at the end. 2, I got to go with the original Zelda. Now, again, I would put Zelda 2 above it, but I consider that more of a Metroid game, not a Zelda game. So it's its own thing, in my mind. And then number 1 is, of course, Link to the Past. Link's Awakening would probably be up there, or the Oracle of Seasons or Oracle of whatevers, because I know I would love those once I get through them. But what it is right now, I'll go Skyward Sword, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past.
You're hilarious, Hudson. Seriously, all the ways you categorize things. Like a month ago, you're like,
says the guy who's going to pick Breath of the
Zelda
Wild.
in my top 5 games, and he's like, didn't make my top 3. Okay.
Because it's not a Zelda game; it's a Metroid game.
To each their own. That's fine. I mean, I've established mine here already, I think, in the past, but I'll do mine the opposite way too. I'm going to say Breath of the Wild's my number 1. I still maintain Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game, and Mario Odyssey is the best Mario game, and the fact that they hit them both right as this generation hit is impressive.
I agree. Odyssey is phenomenal.
Also, way overdue for a sequel. Like, what are they?
They're
putting out the wrong games here. I don't know.
I heard are they doing like a Donkey Kong Odyssey today?
Oh, I don't know.
Hear that correctly?
That could be interesting.
Once I get a job, then I'll buy a Switch and I'll be able to join in this conversation.
Another universe they haven't visited. I mean, they have so many franchises they could go back to. But number 2,
yes,
and I'm going to put this only really not that far behind Breath of the Wild. It's the Wind Waker for me, just because I had so much fun playing through that. I will say one thing I didn't mention about the Wind Waker, though, is I have a real hard time with the controls. I don't know if the newer versions of Wind Waker fixed that, but like I played that with my kids last summer, and like the camera in that game is top 5 worst I've ever used. I'm like, I've played games for 37 years and I don't even get how to make this camera move behind my character. That's a problem. But I had a lot of fun with it. And Link to the Past. I'm going to go Link to the Past for my 3rd one. I think, again, very whimsical, very mysterious world, and the fact that there's like that whole bonus shadow mirror world, the dark world. That's lots to explore, a lot of fun stuff there. Also mentioned for Breath of the Wild too, I do enjoy that they included the what are the things called? You get the Kokoro seeds or whatever.
Yeah,
that's the right word. The Easter
Yeah, I
egg they
think
put
so.
in the game with the like, if you collect all like 990 of them, it gives you a golden piece of shit. I find that hilarious.
That's that's just a fuck you from Nintendo. Like,
That is one thing about, and I won't go into a tangent on this because I could, but I won't. But like 3D Zeldas and beyond, they have all these long quests that get you something that once you get them, it's pointless because it's like getting the 255 lives at the end of Mario 64 for what? Nothing. It gives you absolutely nothing. Like, ooh, you have all the big wallet now. Well, what can you buy? There ain't shit left to buy.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's it's a conversation for a whole nother day.
That's a fair point. Okay, anything else we have for today?
no, I think that's it. It's been a fun one.
This has been a fun one. It's a good one to go back and look at. It's also impressive. I don't think I really had looked at the list of how many of these there were before this. Like,
Yeah,
I knew there were a lot, but
more than I thought of.
Yeah, counting the Game Boy ones, there's way more of these than I thought there was, just because I haven't played all those ones, I guess. So, all right, sweet. Well, I think that's it for us this week. This was Legend of Zelda retrospective, I guess, here arguing about our favorites. And this was, again, friends occasionally not disagreeing. And we'll say our goodbyes here. This is Cody signing off for today.
It's Dave. Thank you, guys.
FDM, bye-bye.
There we go. All right, we'll see you all next time. Take care.